Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another exciting session on Unacademy Catalyst. Today's session, we are going to discuss about why diesel and petrol prices in India, right, increase so often. So I'll tell you the analysis, complete analysis in a very layman language. I understand that most of you might not have an economic background. So in a very layman language, we will explain why petrol and diesel prices increase so often in India, and is this unavoidable? So as always, the first thing, just give me 10 seconds for me to make sure that I'm streaming live before we get started. Okay, I think we are streaming live and we are good to start. Let's get started. So I am Parikshit. I am your quants and LRDI expert on the Unacademy platform. So if you are preparing for the CAT, remember after the CAT there is another hurdle. You need to clear the interview and the GDPI and at times the written ability test. For this, you need to also be aware of things happening around you. And today, I'm going to talk about one such very important topic, oil prices in India, why they keep changing so often, and why there has been an increase in the price of petrol and diesel of late. Okay, let's get to our next slide. So today is the 5th of November, right? And today morning, the prices of petrol and diesel in the metro cities is what is shown in the screenshot out here. If you look at it, the prices keep changing every day. So today in Mumbai, it's the highest across all metro cities, almost 88 rupees. While Delhi has the lowest price among the metros, 81 rupees per litre. Now, why do the prices vary across states? That is also something we will discuss in our analysis today. Similarly, the diesel prices as of today morning, the November 5th, right? Highest in Mumbai among the metros and lowest in Delhi among the metros. Now, you need to understand why do these prices keep varying so often, okay? So before that, let's talk a brief about the background, okay? So our points of discussion today will be, I will take you through the background, India and its relation with crude oil. Next, how fuel prices are determined in India. Third, what are the causes of high prices? And fourth, what are the issues and concerns surrounding high prices in India? First, let's look at the background. Okay. Now, when I talk about the background, the first thing that you need to understand here is India has low domestic production of oil. Low domestic production. Okay. So nearly 80% of India's oil needs are imported. And remember, India is the third largest importer of oil in the world. So after the United States, China, we are the third largest importer of oil. From where do we import oil? Generally, we import oil majorly from the Gulf countries. Now, when I say Gulf countries, which countries do I mean here? I mean Saudi Arabia. We are looking at Iran. We are looking at Iraq. We are looking at Kuwait. We are looking at Venezuela and etc. So major oil comes from India from these 4-5 countries, right? Okay. Now, out of these 5 countries, a huge portion of it used to come from Iran alone. Okay, so keep this in mind. 80% of our oil needs are imported, and out of these 80%, almost more than 50% of it used to come from Iran. Now, there is another prospect out here that we need to discuss. One, when I say we are importing oil, I mean crude oil. What is crude oil? It is the oil in its raw form. That is what we import. Now, there is something called a refined oil. Refined oil is finally the oil that is actually used in vehicles and other purposes, right? The good part is we actually export refined oil. What do we mean when I say refined oil? It simply means oil has a lot of components. You know what? it consists of kerosene, it consists of petrol, it consists of diesel. So refined oil is basically oil separating all other ingredients. You are having it in the purest form, ready for use. Now we actually export refined oil to around 15 countries. When I say refined oil, I will divide it into two parts. Petrol we export to around 15 countries, and diesel we export to nearly 29 countries in the world. But we charge a very low amount. We charge a very low amount, not an abnormally high amount. So I think you understand the background. Understand the background. India's oil needs are very high. We are the third largest importer of oil, and majorly our oil comes from the Gulf countries. That is part one of our discussion, the background. We need a lot of oil, and because our domestic production is low, we need to import most of it. Okay. The next part of the discussion is how fuel prices are determined. Price determination. Okay. How the prices are determined in the country. Okay. Now, for that matter, India or any country in the world, right? Let's take an example. Let's say we are importing oil from Saudi Arabia. So what will happen? There will be an import price. Saudi Arabia will charge us a price, right? So this is our import price of oil. This price is set by Saudi Arabia. We cannot control it. Next, what will happen? You will transport the oil to India, right? So obviously there will be a very high transportation charge. You have to ensure that the oil doesn't get waste. The quality of oil during the transportation process doesn't degrade. So obviously you have an import price plus the transportation price. Now on this, it actually lands in India, right? So import plus transportation price is called the landed price. So basically this is the price when it lands in the soil of India. It lands in the soil of India for the first time. The moment it lands, as always, the good or the bad, you like or dislike, you have got the taxes. You have got the taxes. So you will add taxes to it. The government of India charges taxes, and obviously the oil company which imports the oil will also add a margin to it. And finally, this is the price that you and I actually pay for the oil. So you see, it has got so many components. The import price is the first component. It is the price charged by the foreign country. Next, you have the transportation price, the price incurred while bringing the oil to India. This is called the landed price. The landed price. Moment it lands in India, government of India will charge tax on it. So obviously the prices will increase further. And then the oil companies will charge a margin on it. Now finally, it is ready for you and me to actually pay and buy it. So this is the price that you and I pay. Okay. So now I think you understand on a high level how the prices are determined, how the prices of oil is determined in the country. Now the next question that comes to us, okay, then why are the prices so high? Why are the prices so high in India? Why are the prices so high in India? Okay. Very, very important part. A probable interview question, one of the favorite interview questions in your IIMs. Now, there are many reasons, okay? I have listed them out, and the first reason is variation in supply. Think about it. Supply. You know what? Oil is produced majorly by only a few countries of the world, particularly the Gulf countries in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. So moment they see that the prices of oil are actually going down, okay? If the prices are actually going down, what will they do? They will stop production. They stop production. They will stop producing oil, right? They will stop producing oil, stop production. Now, when they stop production, all countries actually do it together, okay? Now, what will happen? Obviously, the supply is now limited. The supply is limited. Let's say initially there were 1,000 liters of oil that was available as an example. Okay. Now what happened? Because they stopped the production, probably now only 150 liters of oil is produced. And you know what? Country like India, country like the US, country like the China will still not need oil. So what will happen? The oil is limited and we are now ready to pay a higher price to get this limited quantity. Do you get the point? So whenever the prices decreases, what will they do? They will alter the supply. They will stop producing, because of which artificially the supply is decreased, and because the demand is high, the prices will again increase. And this is a major reason why oil prices never fall very low, right? Now you might ask, okay, if Saudi Arabia stops producing, can I not go to, let's say, Iraq? Can I not go to Venezuela to get oil? No. Why? The problem is, in a lot of countries, India already has predetermined, okay, agreements. First, and second, we have a curtail arrangement. What is the meaning of curtail? You must have come across this English word curtail. What does it mean? It means, it's like, we are all friends. Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Iran, they are like all friends. So they will first decide among themselves, let's stop supplying oil, or let's stop producing oil together. Because if they stop producing oil together, only then can they artificially increase the prices. If Saudi Arabia stops producing and Venezuela keeps on producing, people will go to Venezuela and get oil. So this policy will not work. So it is in the benefit of all oil producing nations that they together cut supply and hence artificially raise prices. So this is the major reason first why oil prices so often increase in India and in rest of the world as well. That's point number one. Second point, point number two. Point number two is sanctions on Iran. Iran sanctions. Now, who has imposed the sanctions? US has imposed the sanctions on Iran. Now, remember, initially I told you 80% of our oil needs are imported. We do not have sufficient domestic production. So 80% is imported. Now 80% is imported, and out of these 80%, you know what? 60% used to come from Iran alone. 60% from Iran alone. Now, moment US imposed sanctions on Iran, what happened is basically you are restricted to do trade with Iran. Now, if India keeps doing trade with Iran, there will be other repercussions. It will not be in the good books of US. And remember, US is a superpower. Modi, or for that matter, the government of the day, will not try to antagonize Trump, right? So no one does that. So whenever there are sanctions on Iran, you are banned. Even other countries are not supposed to have any trade relations with Iran. Now, because of this, just imagine this 60% that used to come from Iran earlier is no longer available now. Still, some part of it still comes, but definitely it's a very minuscule part at this point of time. So what happens? We need more oil. Someone has to supply the 60%, right? Why? So what will I do? I will go to other countries. I will go to Kuwait. I will go to Saudi Arabia. I will go to Iraq. And now these countries will know, Iraq, Saudi Arabia knows that India is in need. It doesn't have a choice. So what will they do? They will charge us a higher price. And most of the times, we do not have a choice. So we end up paying a higher bill. So the second reason is sanctions on Iran that have actually increased prices in India. Third, strong dollar. This is very obvious. It should be very obvious now. The third reason why there is an increase in the price of petrol and diesel so often. Third reason, strong dollar. Now, you know what? If I were to import oil, let's say from Saudi Arabia, I cannot be paying in rupees, right? I cannot be paying in rupees. What will I have to pay? I obviously have to pay my bill in dollars. Remember, dollar is a currency which works everywhere, So I need to pay my bill in USD. Okay, so if I have to pay my bill in USD, it also means I have to buy USD from the market. Yes, I have to buy USD. If I have USD, only then I will be able to pay USD. Okay, now how will I buy USD? I will sell rupees, and then I will buy USD. Right? So imagine, initially, let's say 1 USD, it's let's say 65 rupees. 65 rupees. And now 1 USD, just for an assumption, is let's say 100 rupees. What will happen? It means, what does it mean? It means, it's very easy. This is again a favorite question for your CAT, for your IIM interviews. What happens? Initially, if I give 65 rupees, I used to get $1. But because the dollar has increased now, has strengthened, meaning I have to give out more rupees. If I give out 100 rupees, only then I will get 1 USD. So do you get the point? So whenever the dollar is becoming stronger, I have to give out more rupees. The Indian government has to pay out more rupees. And if I pay more rupees, obviously, it is not from the coffins of the government or the oil companies, right? I am paying more, so obviously my people, the consumer, the countrymen, right, will have to bear that extra cost. So whenever the dollar increases, the oil prices in India will also increase accordingly. That's the third major point. And the fourth point, as I mentioned some time ago, we are a import dependent country. We are a import dependent country. Even if we want, we do not have sufficient oil production in our country. And because of that reason, we obviously have to depend on someone else. So overall, there is one point that you must have noted here. Global factors majorly determine the oil prices in India. Global factors. Yes, there is one concern, the taxes that the government charges. The government of India charges a very high tax rate. Can it decrease the tax rate? Think about it. I and you would want the government to decrease the tax rate. But if the tax rate on oil is decreased by the government, where will government get money? Where will government money? You also want the government to build roads, airports, hospitals, schools. So where will the government get money? So it is not easy to decrease the tax bill on oil just like that. You and I might want that, but the government is dependent. It's like the salary for the government, right? So they just cannot go and cut their own salary. So but majorly oil prices in India are determined by global factors. So I hope you get this point. Now, whenever there are high prices, there are obviously a lot of issues and concerns that you also need to be aware of. First thing, reduce foreign reserves. Reduce foreign reserves. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Reduce reserves, foreign reserves. What do I mean by that? As I was mentioning a few minutes before, we need to pay the oil bill in dollars, right? Now the RBI, the Central Bank of India, has a huge deposit of USDs. Has a huge deposit of USDs. Several billions of USDs it keeps. Why? For emergency purposes. Now obviously, if I need to pay the bill, I need to give out this USD. So what happens? My foreign reserves keep on decreasing, which is very bad for the country. That's point number one. Whatever USD the government of India and the Central Bank of India has, it keeps on depleting because it needs to pay more and more bill because of increased prices. That's point number one. Second point is inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is a very common term that you should be aware of. What is inflation? Inflation is the increase in price of goods. Inflation. So today if I go out to the market and buy let's say 1 kg of apple for let's say 100 rupees. Tomorrow the same apple, if I go out and want to buy it, it will cost 150 rupees. Yes? Why is it happening? The prices of apple have increased. Now you know what? If oil prices increase, there will be an increase in the price of items, other items. Why? Because all items are dependent on oil for transportation. So especially food items, right? How are food supplied from one state to the other? You have to transport them. So if the price of oil is increased, obviously someone has to be paying it more. So where will you pay more? You will pay more on the items that you buy. So food prices also increase. Hence higher oil prices will lead to an increase in the price of other items, especially food and vegetables. Food, fruits, vegetables in the country, which is again bad, which is again unwanted, and which is again something you and I don't want. Third thing is finances of the government and the households. Finances of the government and the households. Okay. Now, think about it. Households is very easy. Think about it. Households. What will happen? Obviously, if the prices of foods and vegetables increases, You and I have to pay more. Our expenses will increase. If our expenses will increase, our savings will decrease. And this is something probably all of you are able to relate to, right? So again, unwanted effect of increase in oil prices. The other thing is government expenses. Think about it. Government expenses. We are talking about crude oil. What is crude oil? Oil in its raw form. So India imports oil in the raw form, right? Crude oil. Definitely, I would agree that prices of petrol and diesel are borne by you and me. The increase in price is passed on to the consumer. But remember, crude oil also consists of, let's say, LPG. LPG. Now, the prices of LPG are subsidized by the government. I hope you all know this, that if you link your Aadhaar card to the bank, right? And if you are, let's say, a poor person, the government pays a major portion of your LPG bill. Now, if the prices of crude oil has increased, obviously the LPG prices will also increase. But the government cannot suddenly come and start passing on this LPG prices to you and me as well. Why? There are elections. If the household gas cylinder prices increase, everyone will say the government is bad and let's remove this government. So that will be a very unpopular decision which probably the government tries to avoid. And because it tries to avoid that, what will happen? It will keep subsidizing. Subsidizing means even if today the price is, let's say, 500, tomorrow it increases to 1000, you and I will continue to pay the 500 or 600 or 700, and some portion of it will be borne by the government, especially for poor people for whom the government transfers money to their bank accounts as LPG subsidies. That's point number 3. So even the government expenses keep increasing if the prices of oil increases. And the last reason, which is very obvious, we are a politically sensitive country, right? So if the prices of oil, diesel, petrol increases, you and I probably will understand the compulsions behind it. That it is majorly a global factor. Global factors determine the prices of oil, but the common man on the street might not understand. For him, it is the government to blame. So obviously, whenever the prices increase, the government of the country is blamed. And at times, there are huge setbacks politically when it comes to the elections. So even there is a huge political cost for increased diesel and petrol prices in the country. So I think I explained as simply as I can why prices keep on varying in India. And remember, today, okay, nowadays prices are determined, have been deregulated. Petrol and diesel prices have been deregulated. Deregulated. What does it mean? It means it is determined by market prices, global prices. So every morning 6 a.m., we will be looking at the global prices, and accordingly the prices in our petrol pumps will also change, right? So there is a calculation, there is some formula. So depending on what is the global price, every morning 6 a.m. IST, the prices in India are determined on a daily basis. Okay, so that is another point. But and I again explained you why the prices globally keep varying. And because they keep varying globally, when you go to the petrol pump, probably today and tomorrow morning, there will be a change in your price. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Remember, it is these 15-20 minutes discussion that will actually help you crack your interviews should you get a question on petrol and diesel prices. So we'll come up with more topics. I hope you enjoyed the session. In case you like my session, do hit the like button and I'll be really thankful for you for that. Thank you so much, and I will see you today for another session of mine at 12 p.m. 12 p.m. I'll take a session on LRDI, how to score well in your CAT LRDI section. Today, 12 p.m. on Unacademy CAT-alyst. Till then, goodbye and stay safe.